years and 7 months of experience and working with the various designations like application support engineer, and also have worked with automation test engineer, and also currently I'm working as a DevOps engineer since 3 years. And here I work with multiple clouds like Azure have worked and AWS too. And this currently I'm working as a luminary aviation company. This is a software developed company in the aviation domain. So we have a product for the apps. So we have a multiple services that we're going to provide to the clients, airlines. We have around 150 plus clients for our aviation. And we all these aviations can use this my product to utilize their end-to-end operations in there. For example, in the flight operations, they can use for to how the flight can be traveled, how much height it can be, a flight can be fleet. Is all the informations we have for each and every sectors. We have a different services that we are providing to them. This is coming to that. It's I've been working as a software test engineer here in the same organizations earlier 2019. They also have worked with Azure Cloud to hosting our applications into global cloud. They have worked with Azure Cloud. And so when in the same organization have done some few certifications on Azure 900, and also have done the internal training from the Lambda Aviation Infotech, and they given the training as part of that converting to DevOps engineer. And once I deployed to the DevOps engineer, here my role is to work with the contributing on integrating CI/CD pipelines in my project. So here the how I going to be develop the CI/CD integration pipelines in my project. So actually here we have two repositories that we are using. One repository is dedicated to the continuous integration. Another one we are using for the continuous delivery. So the first one, the continuous integration, how we are going to be work. As a DevOps engineer, my responsibility is here to create a Jenkins file in the project. That keeping the Jenkins file in the big bucket. So we are using the big bucket as part of the SPA. So once the developer has pushed the code into the big bucket, so I'm using the Jenkins file and write the pipelines to first create a stage for to check out the code from the big bucket. And once we check out the code from big bucket, and immediately we used to promote the stage to the build. So we are using for this build because our application is made with the C sharp. So we are using for MS build tool. It's building the it's build the application program. I mean, this build the code, and during its building, and also we have performed the unit testing and static analysis. And once it is done, we are promoting the stage to the quality checks. So here we are using for the Sonar scanner, and also we are using for the Sonar profiles to get the code into that, and we are checking with all the vulnerabilities and code smells and bugs and duplicates, and we have to check either that code has met to the organization compliances or not. So once it's meet organization compliances and the governance, and then we're promoting that code to the next for the quality environment, and we have that dedicated automation team. They have worked with the share that links. Once everything has done that meet all the test has passes. So and then we're sending that code back, and we're checking that code is once QA is successfully done. We're promoting the stage to the artifact stage. We are using for the Nexus artifacts. There we have to keep all the code into the form of packages and the storing in the artifacts. So here, because why we are sending here the Nexus as artifact here, because we have a multiple clients, as I said, all the clients are not using the same versions here. For example, I can say that for example, I have a RNA client and Himalaya client and SWQ. SWQ is Shift Airlines. So as of now, the Shift Airlines still is running 43 version, and remaining RNA clients are using still in 42. And another client we have a Himalaya. Himalaya is still 41. Example, we can take it off. These we are going to maintain all these versions, and we're keeping into different artifacts in the form of snapshots. Okay. So once we're keeping in all the artifacts, we are writing. There was a one predefined script we are using for the Python to take up all the source code from the artifacts and converting that into the image format. So once it's coming to image format, we're keeping that image into the Docker registries. From there, actually, we are using from the Flux tool to integrate it and interact with the Docker registries along with that manifest repositories. Where we're going to be used for the continuous delivery. So with the Flux is the main responsible to check, keep on monitoring that is a new image has pushed into Docker containers or not. Once is any the new image has pushed into Docker registry, is the Flux immediately is get update from that image and update it into the manifest repository in the Helm charts. Once it is embedded in the Helm charts, the Helm charts is responsible. Then the Flux also will get the Helm charts and deploy in the Kubernetes clusters. So once it is deployed in the Kubernetes clusters, our services will be up and running, and the resource can be utilized the services like SR reports and master report services and CPS report services. They get utilized. And this is the what I have was contributed on the continuous integration, continuous deployment pipelines. And not only this, uh, and also have contributed on when are the new tickets, like the new ticket will be created for users. So I interact with that IAM users, creating users for them, and also assigning the roles for them, and also creating the confidence pages, and also keeping all those services in the crowd.in ML files because for single sign-on for them, and these activities also have performed so far in that. And also we are creating launching S3 buckets from the IAM services, and also I worked with the cloud service backlogs, and also I worked with cloud compute, cloud build services, and also I have frequently worked with that AWS cloud parameter stores to keeping all access keys and API addresses in it. And this is what main my responsibilities here. And not only that, and some every day, actually every 3 months we have a PA plan. In during this PA planning, every all stakeholders will be interacting with that and discuss about all the modules, not about what I'm handling the modules. Irrespective of that, all ARMS product will be involved into that and discuss about that any new changes into the plan, how we're going to be achieving the better way. The product owners will be described about the product and also enhancements in the PA plan. It will be around 3 days will be there. Every 3 hours, every day for 3 hours it takes to explain about the PA planning. So once it is done, so we have a every 3 weeks we have a sprint planning. So during that we have to pick up all the tasks which is going to be accomplished on this particular sprint. So we take up the other task, and regarding that, every day we have a sprint meeting to discuss about how many we completed, how many we did next. So that's we were discussed every day in the sprint calls. So this is the overall that my activities have been done so far in my organization.
Okay, all right. So, okay, so now, okay, we'll move on to next question. So, uh, can you differentiate between continuous deployment and continuous delivery? What is the difference between these two?
Uh, so, pretty to my knowledge, and what is the continuous integration in the sense once the developer has pushed their code, the new changes into that same branch. So it's pick up that changes along with the old changes we are deploying to the quality. So they are keep on checking that the new code along with the old code and giving the results. That is what we can say for continuous integration. And continuous delivery. So we are delivering to the integration servers because we have around six servers are there. I mean, six environments. In that, I am the responsible for the integration. Like I'm working with the development and quality and integration team. So once we all the checks, including sonar checks, once everything is done, we are ready to promote that code into the integration servers. So that for they have another dedicated team, we have a DevSecOps and DevOps team. They are working with to take up the code from the integration server. They are who are selling the UAT testing and staging and deployment and productions. So this is and once the code has been integrated and we are sending for the testing and also going to be deploying to the integration servers. So without affecting for any latencies on the transformer.
Okay, as you mentioned that DevSecOps, right?
Yes,
So, DevOps and DevSecOps, what is the difference between these two?
actually, the DevOps engineer can focus on only on when pre-execute the applications. For example, as a DevOps engineer, how I've been working in my organization, I'm checking the reports. When example before after build after we perform unit testing and all. So we are sending to check all the reports and using Sonar scanner, Sonar run, and Sonar units, so that we can find out and while before executing the applications. So we're checking that any is that application has met with the rules what is set by the product owners or not. I mean project manager or not. So I will focus on it. If it's already met, it's meet the coverage all as per the rule set and everything. Then we are promoting that code. But coming to the DevSecOps team, they are mainly focused on that while application are executing. For example, when application is running, They are sending some SQL injections to unit, like they're using further dash tools, dynamic application security test, like OJAP tools they were using on the projects, and they're checking that to sending SQL injection, is there anywhere that attackers may can possible to interact with the codes. So these kind of vulnerability checks they have focused the developers and come up with, and where developer has to be focused and which areas they need to be build better to be overcome this situation. They also give advice to the developer. So this is what the differences that I have seen in my project, and what the DevSecOps and DevOps engineer have done from various ways.
And could you please tell me a little bit more about SRE rule?
SRE.
Yeah.
Um, SRE, it's similar to this, and SRE also has to be focused on morely interact with those servers and related to that. And he also be responsible for to checking uh, nodes health and metrics and utilizations of CPUs and uh, server stabilities, and to avoid these vulnerabilities, and these all the responsibilities necessary are people also can does. But when it's time to differentiation between DevOps engineer and DevSecOps, it will be different. But earlier we have only the thing that is SRE. So in this case, SRE is the only one who has picked up all of these things.
Okay. All right. So, how long you were working with Terraform?
Sorry.
How long you are working in Terraform?
I have been here working as 3 years in the DevOps engineer. In that, I have worked around 3 to 4 times to launching S3 buckets and cloud service catalogs, and IAM users also used for that. Uh, and
Okay.
which service? These services are you mostly we have worked with to be create. And this is the same way we
Okay,
have as
okay. So
every
in AWS, you have mentioned like you are very much into EC2, Route 53. You have hands-on experience in RDS as well, right?
yes, yes,
So if
those
I'll
are.
if I'll ask you, suppose I your manager will say, hey, how to deploy a three-tier architecture? Can you explain how we can set up a three-tier architecture in AWS cloud?
Actually, AWS setups, actually, we were not doing perform that in my projects AWS setups, and a few services we can be launched. Uh, the setups, I think we have a dedicated AWS team they can work on.
Okay, so architecture, you don't have much idea about the how we can deploy the architectural part, right?
Yeah,
Okay, anyway, so as you mentioned that you have experience on Docker and Kubernetes, right?
yes, yeah.
So in Kubernetes, there is one option called daemon set. So daemon set, this is the part of worker node or master node. Docker file. If I'll ask you the Docker file,
Okay.
suppose I have a requirement to write a Docker file. So what are the basic component is required to create or write a Docker file?
So first thing you want to see that image, whether which image we have available. For example, let's say I can say we had user first reminders from that you can go into users Ubuntu as an image, and then we're going to be run. The run command will really perform the actions, and what actions will be performed to be using that image. We're going to create a containers to deploy into that. So use for the run command, and also we have expose command, which is mainly focused on the port numbers. So these commands is mainly interact with this, and also we can use for certain conditions like we can use for variable commands and all. So based on the file, we can. The main architecture is the main commands is for from run and exposes.
From run exposure and command.
Expose is nothing but code commands. We can only interact the code.
Okay, and endpoint.
Sorry.
Endpoint. Have you ever used endpoint with Docker file?
Um,
Okay. So, for example, I want to create a Dockerized application.
okay.
That application, suppose you have a code and you want to expose that application, right?
Yeah.
But is it possible to call the multiple service or multiple application with a single Docker file?
Actually, we can call multiple services in the Docker file. That can be possible. But when we're going to be run, that will be pretty difficult. But there is a possibility to create your code to all them. But mainly we are going to be create a Docker file for only one containerization, because for every container have a single service will run. So the
Okay.
best practice to create only one Docker file we dedicate to the single container.
Okay. So best practice to will only single application, right?
Yes, because there is a feasibility to write multiple services in the Docker file. But when we are converting that image to run, but all services will be run on the same containers. Then will be difficult, the load will be get more increased and when it will run on the box.
Okay, so now I'm moving to some other questions like performance monitoring. So if we have a requirement to application monitoring and also as well as the infra monitoring.
Yeah.
So what are the tool can be used for this requirement?
So actually, in my project, we are using for the Prometheus and Grafana. The Grafana using for the dashboard. This is the main code that we are working. So in this tool, mainly we are focusing the node matrix and the CPU utilizations and
Can you
already.
explain again which tool you are using for infra and which tool you are using for application?
So we are using here for Prometheus and Grafana. The
Uh,
Grafana is made for the dashboard. We can able to see the all the node CPU matrix and utilizations and monitoring parts and nodes health and everything we can able to see in the dashboard of Grafana. And Prometheus also have Prometheus. It can help us to check any single node health. So we can use a code for the SQL.
So what is the difference? Like we should go for Prometheus or Grafana, or we can use both.
Yeah, both we can utilize. Both we can issue because the Prometheus will be on the CLI. So he can something is bit difficult to be found out. The Grafana is a very visual like and UI, so you can easily to interact. You can easily to understand that what is the node health. Is it green? Is it red? So what is the node health with the on? We can easily to find out. So better to go with this
Both.
Prometheus and
Better to
Grafana.
go with both, or either one we can go for.
Yeah, both.
So if
In,
someone will ask you, "Hey, I need a monitoring tools to set up in my environment,"
okay.
so you'll suggest both Prometheus or Grafana, or you'll suggest one particular tool.
It's both because anyway it's an open, so it will not cost you the company.
So Prometheus and Grafana, there is no cost to the company, right?
Yes, because it is open source still, we can utilize it to.
Open source. So, can you see any difference between Prometheus and Grafana? Is there any difference?
Actually, the reference is very clear. With Grafana is only help us to be to UI. So this can be happy just showing what the nodes will run. It's completely in UI, GUI. I mean, user can easily to interact. Uh, but Prometheus nothing. But example, I can say this Windows with the Linux. I can say the shortcut example. But in Linux, we can see everything in the form of commands, right? If we want to see for that memories and all, we have to use the top command to check with all the seeing all the what is the free size of that memory and all. We can see for the command, three commands. Using interact with the commands and we can get the data, right? But coming to Windows, we can directly go to the system settings and we can check with the CPU. And the same way here also, the Prometheus is nothing but a CLI and will give all the likewise a line visual. And coming to Grafana is a dashboard like a Windows, we can come to know everything.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It is a much differences. But in usual cases, the both tools has to be used. Otherwise, we can go with the CloudWatch.
Mm-hmm. So in